it all started with pulling wires with this thing, and I still have that wire harness board. We might be able to take a picture of it. And I said, God, I love that car. I remember it when I was 12 years old. I fell in love with it, my first love. And if I could buy a replica and put that Grand National engine in it, I would have the best of all worlds.
I'd love to hear the heartbeat of Casper's electronics.
Well, I guess we could start it. It's got gas in it for a change, so.
So, Mr. John, this Cobra you got here, I've seen pictures of it and I heard about it, but I didn't know the story about it. And I didn't know that this car had a Grand National engine in it. Tell me about that.
I was always a Ford guy.
Okay.
I love Mustangs. I've owned several of them.
Okay.
It's like live, eat, and breathe Ford. My brain is shaped like a blue oval, you know. I always loved the Cobra. Since I was 12 years old, fell in love with it. I remember seeing one in one of the showrooms back in the day and at a Ford dealer. And of course, would live, eat, and breathe Ford, and I thought it was the fastest thing in the world. Until '86, when the Grand National came around. I drove one. It swung me right over to Buick. But I still had that love for Cobra, so I thought, you know, I love that Buick engine. The thing runs so strong, and it's just a nice little package. But I don't like the way that Grand Nationals handle, but I always like the way the Cobras handle. So I thought, why not pair them together? So I bought a replica, body and frame.
Okay.
Built it. My youngest son figured out a way to find out if the Grand National engine is going to fit, because that was my big concern. It was kind of a dumb concern because they put big blocks in these things. Anyhow, he bought two models and did an engine swap and showed me the Cobra with the Grand National engine. I thought, okay, we're going for it. So I set out to figure out a way to put the Grand National engine in, but I was on my own with all the wiring. So, and anyway, I had to build a harness to make the engine fit in the Cobra. So
at that time, had Casper's electronics been started? When did you start Casper's
we
electronics?
were in Casper's since '88.
Okay, okay.
And it started out with, you know, the Ultra chip, the performance chip, and grew from there. Anyway, I had to build the harness, so I actually made a harness board out of wood, just like the ones you see around here.
Okay.
And I had a stock Grand National engine harness that I set in the board and laid it out and figured out where all the wires go. And then I looked at the Cobra and said, now I got to make one for the Cobra. And I ended up building an engine harness from using the stock Grand National engine harness as a pattern, but there were a lot of differences. So I wound up modifying it, getting it in the car, and inadvertently I created a harness board to make Grand National harnesses.
Okay.
So back then when this car was built, we started brainstorming, saying let's provide engine harnesses for the Grand Nationals. GM doesn't make them anymore. And so that's what started Casper's building the engine harness. And at the same time, we got the Cobra running with the Grand National engine. It has Corvette suspension, Corvette IRS, a Dana 44 in the rear, and pretty much it's a Corvette underneath, except for the Grand National engine and 200 transmission.
So it does have the 200 transmission
yeah,
too?
So it's got the automatic with overdrive with the lock-up converter.
What about braking?
The brakes are stock Corvette discs all the way around with the Powermaster.
Okay, so you got the electric Powermaster on the Grand
being
National.
an electric geek that I am, I had to put the Powermaster in,
Okay,
and that's how
okay.
that wound up in there.
Okay, well I want to check it out.
This is my baby.
Okay.
The plan was to find an engine and get it in there. I had to weld some motor mounts and weld the transmission mounts. So when it was down to the frame and I had the body off, I set the engine up and made it so that I knew it was going to fit and there was plenty of clearance. So probably one of the mistakes I made was I wanted a low center of gravity. So I set the engine way low to the point where the frame rail and the oil pan had an inch difference. So the oil pan hung below the frame rail by an inch.
Okay.
If I could do it over again, I would raise the engine. I was worried about the intake hitting the hood, but for no reason at all. As it turned out, It is low. I mean, the car hooks. I get 1.7 60-foot times, you know, when I race it, and you know, it runs low 11s. But I need, and that was with a stock engine with a TA49 and a stock computer.
Okay.
So
this was the year '95. This
Yeah.
was completed.
Yeah.
And from there, did you do any type of race events or?
Well, when I built it, I said, oh, I'm going to keep this car as clean as a whistle. This is going to be my little garage queen. I'm not going to mess with it. So it took me about the length of my driveway to realize that, no, I had to race it. So the first place I headed was Bowling Green.
Okay.
And
GS Nationals?
GS Nationals.
Okay.
It was in April.
Okay.
And got it on the track. I actually won a second place award for a non-Grand National turbo-powered car that year.
Okay.
But the first blast down the track, I ran an 1180, and I was, of course, hooked as ever.
Wow.
And that was with stock everything. That was before all the modifications. The engine was bought out of a guy in New York that had a car that was rear-ended.
Okay.
And he sold me the engine and transmission. So I pretty much took it out. I sent it to a guy named Gary Oswald, who went through it and made sure everything was right. It had a stock cam. And so I got it to run just the way it is, you know, with a stock engine with some miles on it. Just a perfect combination. It's lightweight. Most of the weight is in the rear, which is unusual. I have 56% of the car weight in the rear and 44% up front. So at one point I had it at a track that I was doing, it was actually at the Gateway Raceway. It's like the Indy track. And I got the car going up to about 140 miles an hour and realized that the front end had lifted off the ground. I had no steering. So my top end limit is 140 miles an hour.
Okay.
And if I would have pushed the engine forward and gave it more of a 50-50, I could probably do 155, 160 with it. But that was as far as I cared to go, and I've had a lot of fun with it and had it, you know, at road courses. I've had it all over the country. I had it to the GS Nationals several times, and just had a lot of fun driving it. And it's, picture a Grand National that handles. You know, it's it can make corners. The brakes are incredible. Even with the Powermaster, it stops on a dime, and it's just a fun car to drive. Bugs in your teeth. It's like a four-wheel Harley is what it amounts to.
So it's just cool to see that this company, what it is today, started with this invention here.
Yeah, you know, what started us in the wiring was the fact that I had to wire this car. So today we do mostly wiring, many engine harnesses, many contract harnesses for different companies, and it all started with pulling wires with this thing, and I still have that wire harness board. We might be able to take a picture of it.
Okay.
But it's not used anymore, but we use it as a kind of a keepsake. And
I'd love to hear the heartbeat of Casper's Electronics.
well, I guess we could start it. It's got gas in it for a change. So.
Okay.
And it's pretty straightforward. To run it, I hit the green button and I hit the start.